Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Indian delegation continues engagements at World Economic Forum 2026. Continuing its pitch for investments, the delegation showcases India's tech-led inclusive growth. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar terms Spain as India's important trade partner in EU during his meeting with Spanish counterpart in New Delhi. Jose Manuel Albares backs for conclusion of India-EU FTA, says it's the right time. European Union's von der Leyen says Europe needs its own levers of power in this increasingly lawless world, asserts the future of Greenland is only for Greenlanders to decide. Trump signals talks with NATO on Greenland ahead of reaching Davos, reiterating that there is no going back on Greenland. Trump, however, assures good news for both the sides.
So I think something's going to happen that's going to be very good for everybody.
In sports, India-New Zealand rivalry shifts to the shortest format as the men in blue face the Black Caps in the first of the 5 T20 internationals in Nagpur today. The Indian delegation is actively participating at World Economic Forum Davos 2026, explaining at major events how the country is combining modern technology with fair growth for all citizens. India's Minister for Electronics and Information Technology, Ashwini Vaishnav, held a meeting with Google Cloud CEO Thomas Kurian and his team. Google has announced its investment of $15 billion over 5 years to build a 1 gigawatt AI data center hub in Visakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh. This is its largest outside the US. Speaking at a panel discussion, Ashwini Vaishnav said that India is working across all chip manufacturing levels, whether design, fabrication, assembly, testing or packaging, and aims for global competitiveness by 2031-32. He also said that global industry sees India as an increasingly reliable supply chain partner.
There are 5 layers in the AI architecture: the application layer, the model layer, the chip layer, the infra layer, and the energy layer. We are working on all the 5 layers, making very good progress in all the 5 layers. On the application layer, we will probably be the biggest supplier of services to the world. Go to an enterprise, understand the business of enterprise, understand the working of that enterprise, and provide that service using AI applications. That's going to be the biggest factor of success or successful deployment of AI, because that's where ROI comes from. ROI doesn't come from creating a very large model. 95% of the work can happen with models which are 20 billion or 50 billion parameters. We are creating a bouquet of such models. We already have a bouquet of such models which are now being deployed in multiple sectors to increase the productivity, to increase the efficiency, to increase the effective use of technology.
On the sidelines, the minister held a meeting with IBM CEO Arvind Krishna at Davos. Ashwini Vaishnav also spoke to Meta's Chief Global Affairs Officer Joel Kaplan at the World Economic Forum. During the summit, Harsh Sanghvi met with key leaders from OpenAI and Cognizant to discuss integrating artificial intelligence and expanding digital infrastructure to drive the next wave of industrial growth in Gujarat. Harsh Sanghvi said that India has its strongest ever delegation at the World Economic Forum, with Gujarat exploring new investment opportunities in sectors such as AI, defense and textiles.
Today at World Economic Forum, India is having strongest and largest delegation. Gujarat is having a strong investment legacy. So Gujarat is here to see the new opportunities in AI, defense, GCC, the textile parks, financing new investment plans.
Also, when we talk of other sessions, then a session on strategic leadership in the bio-revolution, women empowering innovation and global solutions was also held at World Economic Forum, where India's former Union Minister Smriti Irani said biotechnology is transforming how we treat disease, feed population and respond to climate challenge. Yet, leadership and capital allocation across the sector remains uneven, with women representing fewer than 1 in 5 leadership positions in this trillion-dollar industry. The discussion underscored how gender-responsive leadership strengthens innovation ecosystems, enhances market performance, and delivers more inclusive outcomes for the society. Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis had an interaction with Chairman of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, Patricia F. Russo. Senior VP and Managing Director for India, Bhavna Agrawal, was also present for the meeting. The discussions covered key aspects of global technology landscape, including digitization and the use of AI for security. The third day of the World Economic Forum annual meeting will witness discussions on India's transition from emerging to pivotal and its growing influence across trade, value chains and technology. Organized by the Confederation of Indian Industry, the event brings together government representatives and corporate decision makers to examine how sustainability objectives can be operationalized across the real economy. This session examines India's rising prominence in global business strategy, investment flows, and policy frameworks that foster inclusive growth. Our correspondent Akhilesh Suman joins us with more. Akhilesh, we've given a background of all the developments at Davos. Also talking of day 3, then India will be participating. The delegation will be participating in the session, which has been initiated by CII. That is India's transition from emerging to pivotal. Get us more when we talk of day 3 of engagements of the Indian delegation at Davos.
Actually, that Indian delegation is the largest delegation, as we heard from Deputy Chief Minister of Gujarat. Indian, pavilion is also one of the largest, 10,000 square feet pavilion is there. So in that way, India is attracting lots of visitors from World Economic Forum participants. And as we know that Ashwini Vaishnav is there as a leader of the delegate. We have 4 union cabinet ministers, we have 6 chief ministers, and we have a delegation from 15 states of India. And all are trying to attract the investors from all over the world who have participated there. There are 2 types of their participation. One is the panel discussion, and another is some meetings on the sidelines. So in that way, we are making a good mark, and whatever I am hearing from there, that India is becoming one of the major attractions at WEF, given the fact that we are the largest transparent market in the world, a stable financial situation, transparent banking system, and also there are so many tax reforms in the country that is attracting the willing investors who are being discouraged by somehow or other many quarters like USA. So in that way, India is becoming one of the major countries in Davos that can have a very good result once the delegation returns from there. So in that way, our delegation have a very good rapport with business people there, with the officials who have come from different countries, and especially from parts of Europe. We are going to have a free trade agreement from Europeans with Europeans in this month on 27th of January. So I think India has a multi-pronged approach in Davos, and that is why we have sent a very effective and impactful delegation there, so that we can attract investment, we can attract people who want to have a skilled workforce in their country, and we can also attract their attention on the services we can provide there. So I think AI is one of the emerging areas in which we are also, projecting ourselves that we are a competitive, market. We have competitive talent. In semiconductor also, and especially in digital public infrastructure, we are showcasing that how India has made transactions inside the country and even some quarters outside the country also. So I think India is going to make a very good impact in World Economic Forum.
All right, so that was about India's participation at the forum, but then the World Economic Forum has also grabbed attention for other reasons as well. When we talk of Trump's participation at the forum, then he has talked of taking up Greenland at the forum. At the same time, he has also said that while there will be no looking back, but he has also assured that, the topic or the discussion will bring in good news for both the sides. How do you see it pan out?
Actually, Mr. Trump's agenda is quite clear. He wants, Greenland, and he wants to put both carrot and a stick for getting the Greenland, territory. In that way, I think French President Emmanuel Macron was here in Davos, and he had offered him to join the G7 meeting in Paris, but Trump has refused to visit the G7 meeting. So in that way, he is giving very clear signal that I'm not going to talk on this issue. But in Davos, he has said that in Davos there will be many meetings on the issue of Greenland. The German Chancellor is there. German Chancellor has expressed interest that he will talk to Donald Trump. That the Denmark representatives also will be there. They will also, hopefully, they will also talk to Mr. Donald Trump. So in that way, Trump wants to talk one-to-one, not in a group. And that is why he refused to join the G7 meeting. And then there will be European Union meeting also after Trump's speech, all of them here in the Davos Economic Forum. So I think it will be very, very hectic parlance when Donald Trump is there, because everyone wants to have a conversation with Trump that why he's so much adamant on taking Greenland. Because Greenland is an issue not only of, a territory, but it is also becoming an issue of conflict among the allies. Because America and the European Union has been very strong allies after the Second World War. NATO was created because of that bonhomie. And now Mr. Trump is trying to break that bonhomie, and it will be like NATO against the USA, USA against NATO. So it is very peculiar situation for everyone who had been long-standing allies. So in that way, I think that it will be very interesting time for those who are in Davos and who will see that how things pan up, how diplomacy works there, so that Trump's complaints about possibility of China or Russia taking over, Greenland in coming days, and whether and how Trump will save the Greenland from their clutches. So these are very big questions he has put before Europe, and Europe has also put a very big question to Trump, that whether he will, grab the sovereignty of the country that has been demarcated very well in the history. So let us see that how Trump manages to, assure his allies in Davos.
All right, Akhilesh, we leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those insights. So that was about World Economic Forum, India's participation, and also other updates on the forum. Up next, we're heading for a short commercial break. You're watching DD India Newshour. But after the break, we get to other prominent engagements at Davos. Stay with us. Former South Korean Prime Minister Han Duck-soo gets 23 years jail term for martial law role. Ace NASA astronaut Sunita Williams calls it a day after a stellar 27-year career laden with 3 missions aboard the ISS and various human spaceflight records.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. And it fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Newshour. Let's continue getting more updates. US President Trump said that he would hold several meetings to address his intention to take control of Greenland. While insisting the US needs control of Greenland, US President Trump was confident that something is going to happen that is going to be good for everybody regarding tension between the US and Europe.
We have a lot of meetings scheduled on Greenland, and I think things are going to work out pretty well. I think that we will work something out where NATO is going to be very happy and where we're going to be very happy. But we need it for security purposes. We need it for national security and even world security.
After speaking with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Trump said in a Truth Social post that Greenland was imperative for national and world security and that there could be no going back. He added that everyone agreed on that. Trump's bid to claim sovereignty over Greenland from Denmark has raised concerns about straining NATO and sparking a renewed trade conflict with Europe. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen gave a stern message at European Parliament, saying Europe must be ready to change even faster to become more independent. She was speaking on geopolitical tensions and the need for the EU to be stronger and more sovereign. She said that the first pillar of EU action in Greenland will be massive investment surge to support economy and infrastructure. She said the future of Greenland is only for Greenlanders to decide. While saying that nations now live in a world defined by raw power, she said that Europe needs its own levers of power. She also said that it was more important than ever to keep focusing on Ukraine, while the EU would work with the US and other partners to strengthen security in the Arctic region. Meanwhile, with Trump not ruling out using military force to seize the island, NATO members are mulling over ways to respond. France has asked for a NATO exercise in Greenland and is ready to contribute to it. The announcement comes amid rising tensions as Trump at Davos is expected to intensify his controversial efforts to acquire Greenland, despite substantial European opposition. Earlier speaking in Davos on Tuesday, Macron said that Europe would not give in to the bullies or be intimidated, in a scathing criticism of Trump's threat to impose steep tariffs if Europe does not let him take over Greenland. NATO leaders have voiced serious concerns about the potential repercussions of Trump's Greenland strategy, which he has controversially linked to his personal grievances over not receiving a Nobel Peace Prize. The situation marks a significant strain in transatlantic relations. While Britain and Denmark will hold defense talks on Wednesday in Copenhagen, focusing on security in the Arctic region, John Healey and Troels Poulsen will discuss how European nations can step up security in the High North, a term used to refer to the European Arctic, which includes the island of Greenland, a self-governing territory of Denmark. The UK and Denmark want to protect critical national infrastructure in the Baltic and High North. On the financial angle, Europe is now considering deploying a trade bazooka, a powerful multi-layered instrument in its arsenal of economic deterrence, part of which is the announcement expected by European Parliament on Wednesday itself on the suspension of the approval of the US trade deal agreed in July last year. The agreement set US levies on most European goods at 15%, down from the 30% Trump had initially threatened as part of his Liberation Day wave of tariffs in April. In exchange, Europe had agreed to invest in the US and make changes on the continent expected to boost US exports. The deal still needed approval from the European Parliament to become official. Recently concluded EU-Mercosur trade deal may face hurdles as EU lawmakers will vote on Wednesday on whether to challenge the European Union's free trade agreement with South America in the bloc's top court. This move could delay the deal by 2 years and potentially derail it. The European Union signed its largest ever trade pact with Mercosur members Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay and Uruguay on Saturday. The agreement now requires approval before it can take effect. If referred to the court, the EU could still apply the pact provisionally, pending the ruling and parliamentary approval. Opponents, led by France, the EU's largest agricultural producer, says that the deal will sharply increase import of cheap beef, sugar and poultry, undercutting domestic farmers who have staged repeated protests. Getting you updates from Venezuela now. US President Donald Trump claimed his administration has taken millions of barrels of Venezuelan crude, is selling some in the open market, and is now in talks with opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. The move comes as Caracas reports fresh oil revenues, lawmakers prepare legal reforms, and US forces continue to seize tankers in the Caribbean. Here's a report by DD India's Harshita Baroy.
U.S. President Donald Trump said the United States has taken 50 million barrels of oil out of Venezuela and is selling part of it on the open market, a move he claims is aimed at lowering global oil prices and reviving Venezuela's struggling energy sector. Speaking to reporters on Tuesday, Trump said controlling Venezuela's oil resources is central to his administration's strategy in Latin America. While shipping data suggests the oil has not yet been fully exported, Trump said the move signals major U.S. involvement in Venezuela's energy future.
We're talking to her, and maybe we can get her involved in some way. I'd love to be able to do that. Maria, maybe we can do that. The oil companies are getting ready to make massive investments there.
Alongside the oil push, Trump confirmed a shift in political engagement. Trump said Washington is holding discussions with Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado about a possible role in the country. Praising her leadership, he said talks are ongoing and added he would welcome her involvement. Trump ruled out any contact with former President Nicolas Maduro, saying his lawyers would strongly oppose it, particularly over allegations linked to interference in the 2020 U.S. election. In Caracas, the effects of U.S. oil control are already being felt. Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, said the country has received $300 million in oil revenue, the first proceeds from the 50 million barrel oil supply arrangement announced by Trump after Maduro's capture earlier this month. She said the funds deposited in an account in Qatar will be split among 4 Venezuelan banks, allowing them to sell dollars to local companies and help stabilize the exchange market.
We must report that funds from oil sales have been received. The first $500 million has been received and $300 million has been received. These funds will be used to cover and finance our workers' incomes, to protect the purchasing power of Venezuelan workers.
As revenue flows resume, lawmakers are moving to change the rules. Venezuela's National Assembly President Jorge Rodriguez announced broad reforms to the country's oil laws, citing a new political context. He said the agenda includes changes to the hydrocarbons laws to attract foreign investment. Under current legislation, foreign companies must operate through joint ventures controlled by state oil firm PDVSA. Meanwhile, enforcement continues at sea. The U.S. military said it seized another Venezuela-linked tanker in the Caribbean, the 7th such interception since Trump launched his campaign to control Venezuela's oil exports. U.S. Southern Command said the vessel was apprehended without incident, underscoring Washington's determination to ensure Venezuelan oil is exported only through approved channels. Harshita Baroy's report, DD India.
From conflicts to financial instability, the world order is getting increasingly fragile, reference to which was made by Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney in a speech at Davos. He said the old order is not coming back and urged fellow middle powers to come together. He also called on countries to stop invoking rules-based international order as though it still functions as advertised.
Great powers can afford for now to go it alone. They have the market size, the military capacity, and the leverage to dictate terms. Middle powers do not. But when we only negotiate bilaterally with a hegemon, we negotiate from weakness. We accept what's offered. We compete with each other to be the most accommodating. This is not sovereignty. It's the performance of sovereignty while accepting subordination. First, it means naming reality. Stop invoking rules-based international order as though it still functions as advertised. Call it what it is, a system of intensifying great power rivalry where the most powerful pursue their interests using economic integration as coercion. It means acting consistently, applying the same standards to allies and rivals.
Moving on, former South Korean Prime Minister Han Duck-soo was sentenced to 23 years in prison on Wednesday for aiding and abetting a declaration of martial law that briefly suspended civilian rule. Pronouncing the sentence, the Seoul Central District Court judge said the martial law decree declared by Han's boss Yoon Suk-yeol in December 2024 was intended with the aim of subverting the constitutional order and amounted to insurrection. The sentence is 8 years longer than prosecution demanded. The 76-year-old career technocrat was ordered to report to prison immediately after the ruling. Han is one of the many former officials, including Yoon, who have stood trial over their roles in the martial law attempt. A Japanese court sentenced former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's killer to life in prison on Wednesday. The court charged Tetsuya Yamagami with killing the former Prime Minister with a homemade gun during the influential politician's campaign rally in Nara in July 2022. The judgment came more than 3 years after the broad daylight assassination of ex-Japanese Prime Minister shocked the world. A guilty verdict was all but certain after Yamagami admitted to killing Abe in the first court hearing at the Nara District Court in October, and attention had been on the severity of the sentence. The former Prime Minister was a huge figure in public life in Japan, where there is virtually no gun crime, and the country was left stunned by his assassination. NASA astronaut Sunita Williams has retired from the space agency, capping a stellar 27-year career during which she completed 3 missions aboard the International Space Station and set various human space flight records. Williams, 60 years of age, is currently visiting India. On Tuesday afternoon, she participated in an interactive session hosted at the American Center. She spent over 8 months aboard the ISS and returned to Earth in March 2025 aboard the SpaceX, along with her crewmate Butch Wilmore. 60-year-old Williams, a former Navy captain, spent more than 27 years at NASA, logging 608 days in space over 3 station missions. She also set a record for the most spacewalking time by a woman, that is 62 hours during 9 excursions. You're watching DD India News. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, stay with us for a quick sneak peek into the Republic Day parade rehearsals ongoing in the national capital. Prevailing dry spell across Sikkim causes forest fires following complete withdrawal of southwest monsoon in October last year. Ever thought of a place offering good food along with serenity of nature? We take you to such a haven in Shimla.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Newshour. A quick relook at the top stories now. Indian delegation continues engagements at World Economic Forum 2026, continuing its pitch for investments. The delegation showcases India's tech-led inclusive growth. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar termed Spain as India's important trade partner in the EU during his meeting with Spanish counterpart in New Delhi. Jose Manuel Albares backs for the conclusion of the India-EU FTA, says it is the right time. European Union's von der Leyen says Europe needs its own levers of power in this increasingly lawless world, asserts the future of Greenland is only for Greenlanders to decide. Trump signals talks with NATO on Greenland ahead of reaching Davos, reiterating that there is no going back on Greenland. Trump, however, assures good news for both sides. In sports, the India-New Zealand rivalry shifts to the shortest format as the men in blue face the Black Caps in the first of the 5 T20 internationals in Nagpur today. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and his Spanish counterpart Jose Manuel Albares held wide-ranging discussions this morning on bilateral cooperation and world affairs. In the opening remarks, Dr. S. Jaishankar spoke about trade, investment, defense, technology, education and people-to-people ties. He also lauded India's and Spain's friendly relations rooted in shared democratic values and respect for multilateralism and the rule-based order.
Excellency, India and Spain enjoy warm and friendly relations rooted in shared democratic values and respect for multilateralism and a rule-based order. Our political engagement has grown steadily, marked by regular high-level exchanges. India and Spain will celebrate in 2026, this year, the 70th anniversary of the establishment of our diplomatic relations, as well as the dual year of culture, tourism, and artificial intelligence. This initiative reflects our shared commitment to combining our rich cultural heritage with future-oriented cooperation.
Dr. S. Jaishankar also reiterated India's stand on zero tolerance against terrorism, underscoring that this stance is especially significant in the global fight against a scourge that has affected both India and Spain.
The world order is clearly undergoing a profound change. It is more imperative than ever before for nations to collaborate on shared challenges. This is particularly the case with respect to combating terrorism, where both India and Spain have been victims. The world must display zero tolerance towards terrorism.
Speaking on the economic partnership, Dr. S. Jaishankar highlighted Spain as an important pillar of India's bilateral relations. He noted that Spain is among India's key trade partners within the European Union, with bilateral trade in goods surpassing $8 billion in recent years.
Economic partnership is an important pillar of our relationship. Spain is among India's important trade partners in the EU, and our bilateral trade in goods has crossed $8 billion in recent years. Spanish companies have a significant presence in India, particularly in infrastructure, renewable energy, urban mobility, engineering, water management, and smart cities.
On his part, the Spanish foreign minister termed India as a reliable country. Jose Manuel Albares said that President Sanchez will visit India and hoped Prime Minister Modi will visit Spain. Spanish foreign minister says that Spain will upgrade its ties with India to strategic association, which is the highest level of ties. Spain foreign minister Jose Manuel Albares backed for the conclusion of India-EU FTA, saying it is the right time.
A very good sign would be the final agreement of the FTA with the European Union that we very much would love to see being put forward finally. It's the right time for that. We will also express our wish of upgrading our relationship to a strategic association that is the highest level of relationship that we have with friends, like is the case in India.
Meanwhile, India and Spain are celebrating 70 years of establishment of diplomatic relations this year. To mark the occasion, Dr. S. Jaishankar and Albares jointly unveiled the India-Spain logo, marking the dual year of culture, tourism and artificial intelligence. Republic Day parade rehearsals are ongoing in the national capital. Along with marching contingents, India's defence strength will also be on display. Indian Army contingents took part in the Republic Day 2026 rehearsal parade at Kartavya Path. A major highlight was the debut of the long-range anti-ship hypersonic glide missile during the rehearsal. Meanwhile, due to movement of troops and equipment, traffic restrictions remain in place in central Delhi. Authorities have advised commuters to follow advisories to use alternate routes and have urged the public to cooperate for smooth Republic Day preparations. The 21-gun salute continues to be a defining symbol of India's sovereignty at the Republic Day celebrations performed at Kartavya Path in Delhi. This precise military ritual is synchronized with the national anthem to honor the President of India and the national flag. The salute is fired indigenously by developed 105 mm Indian field guns. These replaced the vintage British-era 25-pounders in 2023 as part of the Self-Reliant India initiative. The ceremony is conducted by the 1721 Field Battery of the Indian Army's Regiment of Artillery. The 21 rounds are fired in exactly 52 seconds, matching the duration of the national anthem. Each shot is fired at an interval of approximately 2.25 seconds. Although it is called a 21-gun salute, it is typically executed by 7 cannons, filling 3 rounds each. Republic Day Parade showcases India's cultural diversity and military strength. Since 2014, the parade floats have seen major changes in design, technology and themes. Floats now blend tradition with modernity, using digital displays, advanced lighting and eco-friendly materials like bamboo and recycled wood. Selection focuses on creativity, message clarity and innovation, with expert committees from art, culture and architecture fields guiding the process. This year, the 2026 parade will celebrate the spirit of the nation with the theme Vande Mataram. From the 5th century sailing ship to modern-day maritime power, the Indian Navy is all set to showcase its prowess on the Kartavya Path on this Republic Day of India on 26th of January. Indian Navy officers from the Warship Design Bureau have designed a tableau themed Strong Navy for a Strong Nation. It is showcasing India's maritime heritage from the ancient stitched ships like the INSV Condena to modern indigenous assets like INS Vikrant, Project 17A frigates, Kalvari-class submarine and also women's empowerment, Navika Sagar Parikrama 2 route, highlighting self-reliance and technological advancement. DD India's correspondent Vishal Barris, though, gets us more.
This is the Navy tableau from J to Vijay. What is J? I have with me Zubair Siddiqui, he is the commander and who has designed this tableau, as the Prime Minister says, jointness.
Jointness, Atmanirbharta and indigenization. This is the entire tableau design based on PM's vision of Samudra Utkarshta and women empowerment and also Jaise Vijay. Over here we have depicted the jointness of the armed forces, how we are becoming Atmanirbhar and through indigenous and all out efforts of the Indian industry, how we have become a mighty power of the Indian Navy in the maritime domain of the Indian Ocean region. Over here we have depicted the old age stitch ship INSV Condena, then the Maratha, the Gurab, a very potent platform from the Maratha Navy, moving on to the 100 and 101st indigenous ship by the Indian Navy, that is INS Himgiri and INS Udaygiri, and the very potent INS Vikrant with its aviation component over here. We are also depicting the 2 lady officers, Lieutenant Commander Dilna, Lieutenant Commander Rupa, who went circumnavigation on the boat INSV Tarani, and also not to forget the very potent silent deep submarine, the deep killer INS Kalvari submarine, showing with the missile launch TLAM. So overall, if you see, and of course we are forgetting that the satellite communication, the Drishti UAV. So you know the future lies in the technologically advanced UAVs, unarmed, unmanned, unarmed, drones, remote controlled, and also the potent helicopter platforms ahead.
Lieutenant Lakshmi has spoken about the women empowerment. So Apart from women empowerment, what all challenges did you face when you thought that you are going to design this tableau for the Republic Day?
Basically, apart from that, if you see, it is amalgamation of all the ideas. So I have to mix all the ideas into one single platform. So it is just we had space constraints and we had to finalize which all things we need to put in and what we try to say. And the idea of tableau is we are showcasing the world that what we are capable of. So for that, I have only few options, few models and a small globe and just have to keep. So I think the effort that we have made in keeping these models, I've used Photoshop and 3D Max for this, for finalizing the dimensions and all. That's all. It was challenging, but it was very proud also for doing this.
A prevailing dry spell across the northeastern Indian state of Sikkim has been reported by the Indian Met Department. This dry spell comes following the complete withdrawal of the southwest monsoon in October last year. Recent daily bulletins from the local meteorological officer in Gangtok indicate that weather has remained consistently dry across the state. And due to abnormally dry spell over the past few weeks, the foliage in the hills of Sikkim has gone extremely dry, leading to forest fires at various places. Heavy winds have added to the spread of these fires. Kuprup village in eastern Sikkim reported a fire on Tuesday. The promptness in terms of alertness and immediate response was displayed by the army, civil administration and the locals, and it has helped in containing the forest fire. There has been no loss to life or property reported so far. Tucked along the historic Hindustan-Tibet road, about 50 kilometers from Shimla, the small town of Matiana is home to Khadu Cafe, a place where food, sustainability and conscious living come together. This cafe is not just about taste, but about slowing down and reconnecting nature and people. Here's our special report. Take a look.
Khadu Cafe is the result of a journey that began far beyond the mountains. After travelling extensively across the world, founder Deepak Verma returned to Himachal with a simple yet powerful idea: to serve honest, local food while staying true to the rhythm of the hills.
Khadu Cafe started way back in 2019, just before the COVID. Basically, we were done with the city life and then we came back to our roots. And we saw a gap over here that, there was very less options where you could get local food. Another focus of ours was on sustainability, that we have to give the services in a very sustainable way. And on those core ideas, we have built Khadu Cafe.
Walking into Khadu Cafe feels like stepping into a space where time intentionally slows down. The cafe encourages guests to put their phones aside and engage with each other. Board games, puzzles, carom and sketching corners for children replace digital distractions. There are no mobile charging points near the tables. A thoughtful design choice meant to keep conversations alive and uninterrupted.
We use the mountain spring water. We don't even sell packaged drinking water. We boil and filter the water, and as a giveaway also, we give it to the guests. This is a pet-friendly cafe. Mountain life is incomplete without the pets.
Simplicity defines every detail at Khadu Cafe. Food is served in glass and traditional metal utensils, while plastic and synthetic decorations are completely avoided. The walls, finished with mud and cow dung, not only enhance the rustic aesthetic but also reflect environmentally responsible construction. The cafe's interiors quietly tell a story of tradition, balance and respect for nature. Beyond food and design, Khadu Cafe plays a role in strengthening the local community. A dedicated corner allows women from self-help group to showcase and sell their handmade product free of cost. Ingredients such as milk, ghee, curd and vegetables are sourced directly from nearby farmers, ensuring freshness while supporting local livelihoods.
Because it's very difficult for the ladies to go out and market their things. So Khadu Cafe is trying to help them to market their things and sell them easily to the guests all over the world, all over India.
Khadu Cafe proves that the sustainability is not just an idea, but a practice. A small cafe making a big statement for its responsible tourism, where tradition is preserved, nature is respected, and sustainability is lived every single day. With the camera person Jay Prakash, Rachna Verma, DD India.
And from here, we now turn focus to sports. We'll talk of cricket first. India's final preparations for the ICC T20 World Cup 2026 begin with a 5-match T20 series against New Zealand, starting with the opening match in Nagpur on Wednesday. After a 2-1 defeat in the ODI series, Team India, led by Suryakumar Yadav, will aim to bounce back in the shortest format. New Zealand arrived with confidence after achieving several firsts over the past year, including a Test series whitewash and their first ever bilateral ODI series win in India. Now the visitors will look to script another milestone in T20 cricket as well.
India's final preparations for the ICC T20 World Cup begins with a high-intensity 5-match T20 series against New Zealand. The opening match of the series will be played in Nagpur on Wednesday. After the conclusion of the ODI series, where New Zealand clinched 2-1 victory, the focus now shifts to the shortest format of the game. For Team India, this series offers a chance to bounce back and regain momentum ahead of the global tournament. Led by Suryakumar Yadav, India see this series as the last major opportunity to fine-tune combination assess players' form and settle crucial selection questions before the World Cup, which begins on February 7 in India and Sri Lanka. New Zealand, captained by Mitchell Santner, will field the full-strength T20 squad. With proven performers like Devon Conway, Glenn Phillips, Daryl Mitchell, Rachin Ravindra and Ish Sodhi, the visitors will keen to build on the recent success and challenge India on their home turf. India, however, have suffered injury setbacks ahead of the series. Washington Sundar has been ruled out of all 5 matches due to side strain, while Tilak Verma is set to miss the opening 3 games. As replacement, the selectors have recalled Suresh Iyer and leg spinner Ravi Bishnoi. For Suresh Iyer, this marks a return to T20 International after more than a year, while Ravi Bishnoi adds depth and attacking variety to the India spin department alongside Kuldeep Yadav and Varun Chakravarti. Several key questions will shape India's approach in the series. Can Sanju Samson continue as India's preferred opener, who claims middle order spot Tilak Verma's absence? Suresh Iyer or Ishan Kishan? Can captain Suryakumar Yadav rediscover his best form at a crucial phase? And in the lower order, does India back Rinku Singh's finishing prowess or Shivam Dubey's all-round utility? With most of their T20 World Cup combination already in place, India enters the series with stability, but with important issues still to resolve. For New Zealand, the series represents an opportunity to test themselves against defending champions. For India, it is about clarity, confidence and momentum. 5 matches, 1 final rehearsal, the road to the ICC T20 World Cup 2026.
All right, we'll take you live across to Davos, where Indian Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav is addressing a session on can India become the 3rd largest economy in the world.
And also working on its digital ambitions. Geeta Gopinath, Gregory and Anya Coffey, Globe, Growth and Risk, from her leadership at the IMF to now at Harvard. Sunil Bharti Mittal, Chairman of Bharti Enterprises. Sunil Bharti Mittal is an entrepreneur who has helped define modern Indian enterprise. Bharti Airtel is a global communication giant and is responsible for India's mobile revolution. Mr. Herrera, CEO and President IKEA Group, one of the world's most recognizable brand. I'm sure all of us here have one piece of IKEA at some point in our life. As a CEO of the IKEA Group, you're looking at a deeper engagement in India. Welcome, all of you. At a time when much of the global economy is grappling with uncertainty, India stands out as a rare bright spot. On Monday, in its World Economic Outlook report, IMF revised upwards its estimate for India's economic growth for 2026 from 6% to 7.3%. The fund projected global growth at 3.3%, while describing India as a key growth engine for the world. In fact, many describe India as having a Goldilocks phase, strong growth and moderate inflation. Many projections suggest India could overtake Japan and Germany over the next few years and move into the global top 3. But momentum is not destiny. The real question is about timing, execution, and choices? And what does India need to do to convert this moment of opportunity into economic transformation? I'm going to start with you, Minister. When you hear this framing, can India become the third largest economy? Do you feel we're asking the wrong question? Should it really be, when will India get there? And if so, how will we get there? What are the two things that will help us? And what are the two things that could halt us?
India will become the third largest economy in the coming few years itself. It's not a question of will it become. It's certainly, that's a certainty that will happen. It's a question of within next few years, we will definitely become the third largest economy. What's working very well is the last decade of very transformational change which has happened in our country. And it's a very well thought through, well defined and very focused execution. It's built on 4 pillars. The pillar of public investment in physical, digital and social infra. The pillar of making sure that the entire society grows along with the growth of the country. So very inclusive growth. Third, the pillar of manufacturing and innovation. Fourth, the pillar of simplification. All this combined with the base of technology that we have put, we can very clearly say that India is going to grow with 6 to 8% real growth and a moderate 2 to 4% inflation and a nominal growth of 10 to 13% with 95% confidence interval in the next 5 years. So that's the kind of growth journey which is there, we can say with a lot of confidence. And what's working very well is that the entire society is seeing the benefit of it. When we look at 540 million new bank accounts opened, when we see 130 million toilets getting constructed, when we see 800 million people getting ration every month, month after month, that shows that the security of the poorest comes as a priority for our government, for Prime Minister Modi ji. And that has helped us bring 250 million people out of poverty. So these two factors, a very well thought through growth path, very inclusive growth, are going to be very good for our country. What's really a matter of concern on our minds is the global debt which is there in the rich world, the huge amount of debt, the mountains of debt in the rich world, how that debt will unravel. What will be the impact? We saw yesterday in Japan, there was a run on the bonds. So that kind of thing, if it happens on a very large scale, what will be the impact on our country is a matter of concern. Otherwise, everything else is in a very good shape that we will become the third largest economy in the coming years.
Okay, so we'll talk a little bit later about what other things that you are doing to insulate us. But now on to you, Geeta. Do you agree with that? Is India's ambition to break into the top 3 a reality? What's your view?
Without a doubt, India will become the third largest economy of the world. It's a matter of a few years, unless something catastrophic happens. If you just look at the math in terms of India's growth rate relative to Germany and Japan, it would be very hard to see how India would not get there. And based on current projections, India gets there by 2028.
Wow.
It could be even sooner than that, depending upon how the revision of the GDP numbers happens at the start of this year, I guess relatively soon. What happens with the rebasing? So that is not the challenge for India. The challenge for India is not about becoming the third largest economy in the world. The challenge for India is about raising per capita incomes to higher levels. And indeed, I agree with the minister that substantial reforms have been undertaken. The physical infrastructure build out is impressive. The digital infrastructure build out is impressive. What was done with the goods and services tax, including the simplification recently, extremely helpful. So to keep the momentum going and to keep raising per capita income and getting to the 2047 goal of Viksit Bharat, I think that's the challenge. And that will require keeping up with the steady pace of reforms to get there. But again, lot of positive developments in India, and very important is the macro stability that you have in the country, not just with growth where it is, but also with inflation being at the low, single-digit numbers. That is a good spot for India.
So you have said earlier that the two things that could hold us back, one is land acquisition is a little bit messy, deregulation, and you have said we've not really used our demographic dividend to its fullest. So what are the things that you think we can do to fix some of those?
Yeah, I think a little bit messy is probably an understatement. It is a tremendous challenge in India to acquire land, to have clean land titles. And that is a constraint on growth. It's a constraint on manufacturing. Again, there are states in India that are experimenting with techniques that other states can also adopt. I think Andhra Pradesh is doing a good job in finding very creative ways of helping with selling of land, shifting land from being agriculture to commercial land. Land titling, again, pushing on that is important. Judicial reforms, I think, are absolutely critical. That is a very important bottleneck for growth in India, and it's been there. I think people have seen it as a long-standing challenge, but we're not seeing many changes in that front. In terms of the labor force, you're right. We've been talking about the demographic dividend in India for a long time, but if you look at the contribution of labor to growth in India since the 1980s, only about 30% of India's growth has come from labor. So it is a fairly capital-intensive production structure that India has because of the rules and regulations that exist and the complications of hiring labor. Now, it is a very positive step in terms of implementing the labor laws that were passed by Parliament a few years ago. I think that's great. The states need to take that and go ahead. Raising the limit on the number of workers above which you face higher regulation from 100 to 300 is good. Though if you want to be a part of the big global supply chain, you're going to have to be way more than 300 in terms of the size of the labor force that you have. So pushing on that front is important. Labor market flexibility is critical. On top of that is the skilling of human capital. I think that is a very important part of the solution too. It's not just about the fact that firms aren't creating jobs. There is a mismatch between what jobs can be created and the skill of the labor force in India. So pushing on that front in terms of the level of education and human capital and skilling, super critical.
Minister, would you like to come into any of the comments that Geeta has made? Anything you'd like to add?
We follow a model of cooperative federalism where the central government and the state governments, we work together to bring out many of the reforms. And some of the reforms which are happening in Maharashtra, in Andhra Pradesh, in Odisha, many of these reforms are now becoming the template for other states to follow. And the labor reforms implementation is a major step. GST simplification, labor reforms, opening the nuclear energy sector to private sector, and reforms in practically every sector. We have two groups of ministers which are working on half the ministries in one group, half the ministries in other group, where we are going down to the procedural reforms, to legal reforms, to every possible reform that we can have. And I'll request all the participants present here, in case you feel there is any particular point which is hampering your growth in India, do come out. We are here to listen to your problems and solve them. We are here to be the catalyst for your growth in India. Yeah.
Excellent. Mr. Mittal, you're a pioneer of India's digital revolution. Much of its growth would not have happened without you. You helped build the networks on which we are now growing. What do you think is the next thing we can do to turbo our growth, and what do you think is leashing us?
Well, I think India is generally in a great spot. You already heard that it's a matter of numbers, mathematics. We will get there to be number 3. And if I put a spiritual metaphor around it, I would say it's written in the stars. The question is $6-7 trillion for 1.5 or 1.6 billion people doesn't stack up. So we will get to number 3, but we need to get to $25-30 trillion. And we can quibble about the year in which we'll get there, but we have to get there and we will get there. What do we need? My tribe, the business community, needs an enabling environment, need a committed government, needs stable situation in the country. All that is available now. One factor that is coming to challenge our growth that we are currently on is massive competition that has occurred in the world today. The US was a huge market for China to grow itself. And they used 20, 30 years of that wonderful moment to build their factories, to build their manufacturing bases, go into deep tech, earn a tremendous amount of money to shore up the economy. That opportunity is not available for India. So we will have to find our own ways and means. Thankfully, we have a huge market. India is a continent of consumers, young people consuming more and more. We will be signing, hopefully, the EU trade deal very soon. Yeah. UK is done, Australia is done, New Zealand is done, UAE is done, many more in the pipeline. But the big one with the US hopefully also gets done soon. We heard from Secretary Lutnick this morning, America must bring everything back to manufacture in America. That's a change. We need to deal with that new shift in the global trading norms that we'll have to deal with. Give us more backing from the government, give us more freedom. We have a prime minister who understands the power of business. He uses the industry and industry players to scale up the country, provide more employment. The PLI scheme that has come out, I never thought during my lifetime India will be a manufacturing destination for electronics or telecom equipment. All that has changed in the last 5, 7, 8 years, just in the last 5, 7, 8 years. Massive amount of exports of Apple phones and many other products are happening now. I remain very, very confident that the energy that I see in India, and now I work in Europe, I work in France, I work in the UK, and I can tell you, we will continue to grow at the rapid clip of 6, 7, 8, hopefully in some years even higher, whereas the world will be settling at 0.5%, 1%, or minus in certain years. We have a good future for us. What can derail us is only the competitive intensity of the world play now that we need to deal with, and that really lies in the hands of the able government, how they deftly deal with the trade deals.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Herrera, you've seen India through many, many years, and right now with IKEA on the ground. From a global CEO's perspective, how does the world view India's growth story?
First, I have to say that I always make a disclaimer when talking about India. I am emotionally biased with India because we live in the family, my wife and the 2 children, for 6 years. And so I call myself an Indian ambassador in the business community. So
unpaid as well, this is the best.
Disclaimer made. No, of course, India, you have to be in India. There is an option because it's... it's a big market, it's a young population, it's also a democracy, it's the English-speaking country, but also at the same time, India has had, is having, and will have the possibility to leapfrog from agriculture to the most developed AI much faster than any other country. So we see, of course, very positive India in that sense.
So, Minister, you said in the first question I asked you that one of the pillars is simplification, which is basically deregulation. And many times, whoever you speak to, that is one of the concern areas. So can you talk a little bit more about what are you doing to make ease of business happen in India?
Absolutely. In the last 10 years, 1,600 laws, old, antiquated statutes have been removed from the statute book. Can you give a similar example anywhere in the world? 1,600 laws have been removed. 35,000 compliances have been removed. A big exercise is right now going to reshape the legal structure tuned to modern times, because many of the laws were written in a time when the government and the political setup of that period, I'm saying of the early, from 1950 to 1990, that was a period when the governments were basically very inward-looking. They were very protectionist. They were not looking at the energy of our people. They were trying to control that energy. So many of those laws are being rewritten now. So that's a major exercise which is going on. Second, many of the procedural things are getting changed. Mr. Mittal is witness to to get a telecom tower permit, it used to take 270 days. Now it takes 7 days. To get a railway terminal connected to the railway network, it used to take 6 years. Now it takes just about 2.5 months. So that is the kind of simplification, procedural as well as legal, is happening in the country. Our entire criminal justice system, which was of 1800 some vintage. So that has now totally been transformed into a new structure. The Telecom Act was of 1854 vintage. That has been replaced by a brand new 2023 Act. So practically every sector, we are trying to bring in a totally new legal framework or totally new procedural framework built on the technology stack that we have.
Okay. So, Geeta, I don't know whether you know, but there's a Rajiv Guava committee which is looking at deregulation. I want to ask you, is making another committee to get rid of bureaucratic red tape the best way forward?
Well, I assume that this is not just a committee for its own sake, but the hope is that it's going to come up with actual actionable plans.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, India needs a lot more deregulation. It is still, in terms of ease of doing business, it is still a challenging place to do business. I'd love to hear from you in terms of what challenges you face. So taking out more and more of the archaic rules that have held back business is absolutely critical. But then all other aspects of India will also have to continue in terms of the reforms. Will have to continue, the ones we talked about on land and labor. One of the areas I wanted to point out, which we usually don't talk about when you're talking about business development, is I want to talk about pollution. Mm-hmm. Pollution is a challenge in India. And if you look at the impact of pollution on the Indian economy, it is far more consequential than any impact of any tariffs that have been put on India so far. If you look at the annual cost to India's GDP of the level of pollution that you have, and it's not just the effect on economic activity, but it's also the loss in lives. I mean, the numbers are really large. Based on a World Bank study that was done, I think it was published in 22, about 1.7 million lives are lost every year in India because of pollution. That's 18% of the deaths in India. I think even from any international investor's perspective who's thinking of coming in and putting up a shop in India, if you have to live there and you have the environment is not of the kind that you feel that, okay, this is going to be consequential for your health, it holds you back. And obviously, not to say, but all the Indians that are living in this kind of pollution. So addressing that on a war footing is critical. I mean, this has to be a mission, a top mission for India.
Along with deregulation, we're putting it right up there.
Along with deregulation for India, yes.
So, Mr. Mittal, you work in other countries, you just mentioned, in Europe, and you've been working in the US as well. What are the lessons that India can take from there for ease of doing business? You know, what are the things that we can adopt?
Well, I can say certainly nothing from France or UK. No, it's much harder, much harder.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, it's much harder. And they also have the, additional burden of the Brussels bureaucracy, which they have to deal with. There's just multiple layers there. I would say US is a good model, where business is really highly encouraged, and the ease of doing business, I would say, to a good level. And of course, there are examples, fine examples in Singapore and UAE, etc. But I would echo Honorable Minister's point of view here. India has come a long way. I mean, I'm a product of, I started in '76. So I have
You're giving your age away.
Yeah, it's fine. But I am telling you, I've seen this plethora of books, handbooks, manuals, standing outside in DGTD, CCIE, hundreds of departments getting one license to get something into the country. All that is gone. 1992 or 91, 92 was one big wave. And I would say in the last 10 years, a lot has been done. Can more be done? Yes. We as business community will keep on asking for more, transfer more faith onto us. Have faith, we will do the right things, we'll be more compliant. Indian companies have much better governance standards today than they were in the 90s and early 2000s. I think this government is engaged. I hope and really I'm confident that this committee is set up for a real reason, because the Prime Minister recognizes there is still much more to be done in ease of doing business. And I remain very hopeful something good will come out of this.
Okay. So I'm adding on to the question Geeta kind of asked you about doing business in India. Is it easier to do business in India or in China? And what would be your advice to a global CEO coming into India at this moment in time?
At IKEA, we are present in many different forms in India. IKEA is present in the sourcing side, engaging with many suppliers, and not only producing in India for India, producing in India for the global supply chain with export. We are present with the retail business, where we acquire land, where we really go full in with our retail business model, and we are present in many cities, and we will grow significantly. We are also present from the energy sector. We are a big investor of renewable energy. Worldwide, we produce double than we consume globally from renewable. And in India, we have recently announced an investment of solar park in Maharashtra. But also we are present from the digital side, which digital services for the global company. But also we are acquiring also and investing in AI Indian companies, so especially in last mile. So we touch many parts of the governments, and we touch many parts of the different ministries and so on. So on that side, doing business in India, half full glass, what is really good, and then what is the opportunity, half empty glass. In the half full, it is true that it's a process of simplification. And then what it is even more important, when you face the blocks, you knock the door and you are heard. I always praise the IAS officials. They are fantastic across the country because they listen to you, you meet them, you discuss, and then it's important. Sometimes things are a bit more complex, you need to find a way, but they are with you, so they don't ignore you. I think every time we have faced issues, we sit down, you have to invest time, but you sit down and then you share and then you are helped. And I see something that I really recognize from India. What is needed to do more in the future is try to find ways harmonization with global standards. If I take an example, production of furniture. Do you know how much India accounts for the global production of furniture in the world? 1%. Can we agree that India deserves more than 1% of the global production? Of course, we agree on that. That's why, for example, the new legislation on QCO, increasing standards and the quality, we welcome very much the intent. We are really supporting that India increase the standards of quality because that will help us, for example, to export globally. Then the implementation has to be done in a way that it is done in a smooth way, and it doesn't come as a law, it comes as a way to support the supplier as well. So it is the implementation which is equally important for the future when it comes to harmonization of standards. And then advice, the last question is coming from the advice from the CEO. I don't want to be pretending that I know everything, but with the experience, I would say 3 things. Don't come to India for the short-term payback. If you come with short-term payback, India doesn't need you. Come with a really long term, and we are here for the really long term. We are owned by a foundation. There is no profit that goes to private shareholder. Everything gets reinvested into the business, and we have a super long-term approach. So long-term. The second one is engage with the Indian stakeholder. Engage and in a true partnership and invest time. And the third one, try to understand India from inside and not from outside. You cannot come to India with your prejudgment, your biases, and to pretend. You need to go. I invested a lot of time personally. We didn't take consultant company when we set up retail in India. I personally engaged, meeting customer on the shop floor, customer on the homes, meeting IS official, listening. So you have to really come with a genuine interest of understanding India from within, and then things will work.
That's really good advice, but I'm still going to put you on the seat and ask, India or China? What's easier doing business?
You know, we are a global company. We need to operate globally, so we have to operate all over the world. And then the important thing is not choosing one or the other. The important thing is whenever you go, you have to go with your full set of values as a company. You have to go full in, and then you have to really find a partnership. I often say that so home is the most important place in the world.
Yeah.
And we are in the life at home business. It is because of that we truly believe that we can help many Indians to have a better life at home. At the same time, I am saying quite often, India is helping IKEA to be better. We are learning massively from India, and we take this learning globally.
Okay, I'm going to take that as India. Okay, going to come to a little bit on tariffs, sir. India currently has one of the highest tariffs imposed by the US to any country, almost 50%. How is India insulating its growth story from this?
We are a very resilient economy. The fundamentals, macro as well as micro, are very strong. And that's really helped us through this turbulent period. Our exports have actually increased despite the tariffs. Our producers are finding new markets. We are growing our export sector in multiple ways. For example, electronics exports has now become the third largest exported commodity out of India, after, of course, engineered goods and petroleum products, which was like unbelievable even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, this was unbelievable. We are trying to expand the market, going to new geographies, and also simultaneously we are engaging with many markets, many geographies for good, balanced, healthy, mutually complementary trade agreements. We have had with UK, we have had with Switzerland and 2 more countries. We have had with UAE, with Qatar, with Australia, with New Zealand. Another one is right now in works with Europe. So lots of engagement globally, and a fundamental change which has happened in the last 10 years is India has emerged as a very trusted value chain partner, not just supply chain partner. A supply chain partner would be manufacturing to your designs, manufacturing to your specs. A value chain partner will be partner to you in the journey of design, in the journey of understanding what the customers need. In the same room 3 years ago, when we discussed semiconductors, people thought that India will never be able to manufacture semiconductors. And when I say the value chain partner, today, the entire semiconductor industry believes that India is the most important trusted value chain partner, right? So that feeling, that positioning of the country is very important for us in resilience, in managing the turbulence that we see.
Okay. Geeta, I don't know whether you caught Prime Minister Carney's speech yesterday in Davos. He basically declared independence from the American-dominated past. I want to ask you the question about dealing with tariffs in that context.
I saw some of his, what he said. It was pretty powerful. Indeed, it was a statement about the current global economic order and how that has basically ended, and that we have to, form new alliances. Yes. I think there was a big call to that. First of all, I don't think the movie's over. It hasn't ended yet. We will have an important speech later today. Yes. That could change everything. So I don't want to sit here and speak profoundly about what the consequences are of what we've heard so far, because it could all be very different tomorrow, right? I mean, one of the reasons that the tariffs that have been announced so far from the US has not been hugely consequential on the world is because the actual level of tariffs, and I did some research on this with the co-author last year, the actual level of tariffs is a fraction of what the headline numbers and announcements are, right? So the statutory rate is about 24%. The actual rate is about 14%, right? So because there's so many exemptions and so many carve-outs. So every time I hear a number, I'm like, I want to wait and see exactly where something sticks. So that's my first piece, is that we just don't know where all of this is headed. What I will agree with, and I think that we don't need to wait for, is that we have permanently moved away from the previous last 80 years of the global economic order. It doesn't matter what comes next, but we're not going back to the time when we had completely close to free trade across all countries in the world. I think national security considerations, economic security considerations have become important for good reason, I think, and therefore the pure efficiency-based model of we're going to buy from the cheapest source is not going to happen, and more countries are going to be looking inwards and building up their own shop, especially in sectors that are important for their security. So I think that has changed. there is no one West anymore. There never was a one East. You know, there was always India, there was China, you couldn't talk about a one East. But we used to talk about a one West, which was, there was the US and Europe were always together, and that's not there anymore. So I don't think there is a one West either. That doesn't mean there's going to be a whole-scale breaking up, but we're not going back. This is a shift that's going to last a long time. And like I said, the movie isn't over, so keep watching.
So one of the things that the minister said, actually, that they are looking to do deals with other countries and trying to sort of insulate the impact of tariffs. Some people are saying this gunboat capitalism of the US is leading to MEGA, which is make Earth great again, versus MAGA, which is make America great again. What do you think about that?
Okay, so firstly, I do want to mention that what we saw in 2025 was that not just India, but China, pretty much every country in the world, found a different market to sell their goods to, or found a different market through which their goods went back to the US, right? I honestly don't think that's a sustainable strategy either. So I don't think we're in a space where this can continue and everybody can have very high levels of tariffs, and India can have 36% tariff rate, and somehow, you know, India would find new markets to send their goods to. There is going to be retaliation. Europe will retaliate to all the flood of goods coming from China. Other countries will too. Maybe India will be concerned about this, a point that Sunil made. So it's not a viable strategy. But what is a viable strategy is indeed having more trade agreements with other countries, which India is doing right now. European Union is doing with Latin America, South America, Mercosur. So those kinds of, I think, you know, agreements, moving on that front is important. In terms of, you know, making Earth great again, are you talking about the fact that we may be moving to something more sustainable, or?
Yes, more sustainable, more markets, not dependent on, you know, one country sort of bullying others into their
I don't know why that becomes make Earth great again. But anyway, I do understand the sustainable part. So, I mean, I think a lot of things have taken a bit of a backseat, and sustainability has taken a bit of a backseat. There is an inherent momentum in it that I think will continue in many parts of the world, including in India. That momentum exists. But if you look at what the trajectory could have been if the US was also a part of all of the climate activity, that would have been a much more stronger transition path. But that said, again, I think that you know, train has left the station. I do think, and it's not just about sustainability, and it's not just about the environment. For many countries, it's energy security. Instead of having to rely on fossil fuel imports, if you can rely on sunshine in your country and use that to produce energy, it's good for your, you know, your economic growth. It's good for job creation. So I think that is that will continue. Among the risks that the planet faces are climate-related risks, so that's not going away. You know, there's a lot of distraction right now, but we still have to deal with weather-related shocks.
So one of the things that Geeta said, and you've mentioned as well, is uncertainty. I mean, she's saying you have a headline, they say a particular tariff, but she still waits to see what is the effectiveness. You have dealt with uncertainty and very challenging situations. What would be your advice to CEOs in India and around the world that are dealing with this kind of a challenging situation?
No, in the end, you know, you have to make yourself stronger to get the best deal. I mean, we have seen how China was not pushed back by the US the way they wanted to, and they quickly backed off. We have to make ourselves big. I think one great advantage that we have is we are a market for everybody in the world. It's 1.5 billion consuming, hungry, young Indians taking more products, more services every day. It's also producing for the world now. It will have a tremendous amount of leverage with many other parts of the world to have the right deals. 83% approximately of the world trade moves away from the US between everybody else. I don't think so it'll ever come to that you will not trade with the US, but if it becomes completely untenable in terms of tariffs and all that, the world will react. And they will find ways, as rightly pointed out in other markets, other places. What India really needs to do is scale. Scale its technologies, scale its production, get to a point where they have consumer surpluses so they can send to the world like China. That will take some time. The good news is that India recognized very earlier on that this is time consuming and capital intensive. You have to build more roads, more ports, more airports, more railways. This would have taken 10, 15, 20 years and hundreds of billions of dollars. How did India mitigate this? They quickly recognized, I would say, credit to the government and the Prime Minister, get a digital highway in place of world order, the best. Provide enough energy to fire it, because there's no point having a digital highway with no energy. These two things were taken on a priority, very high priority. And on that, you dropped a digital stack to connect everybody for banking, for health services, for everything else. This has provided us cushion to wait for the hard infrastructure that is being built up in the manufacturing, in the real hard infrastructure. And you can see year after year after year, India is getting stronger. My own belief is eventually India will get a fair deal, even from the US. I remain confident.
Okay. So how have the tariff tweets affected your assessment of doing business in India? Because you source and you have a marketplace as well.
Yeah, I know we have a big global supply all over the world. And then building on Gopinath, the trade is like water. If you close something, the water will find another way. But then the point here is that the point I'm building on Umital, the point is that I think there is too much noise now on the here and now on the short-term impact. And we are putting too much energy as a society on mitigating the pain. I strongly agree with you that these are the times, these are defining times. These are the times where you can build a new competitive advantage, where you can leapfrog as a company, as a country. Let's take one example, where we are heavily investing and at the same time we are advocating. Is the marriage in between sustainability and affordability. We are investing in circularity. And you know, the more you invest there, the more you can secure, A, is good for the planet, B, is good for the wallet, because many people today are struggling. So day 2 of the month, almost the whole money is gone. So it's good for the people, but also it builds independence. Independence not only in energy, but on trade. What does it take that India produce with the waste that is created in India? Because if you have that approach, you start to depend less on global trade. And the same will happen with other countries. So we need to find win-win opportunity where we really decide not to put the money in mitigating the pain, but putting the money in really leapfrogging as a competitive advantage. And I think India is one of the countries where we can. India has proven. India impressed me. I was living in India when the Aadhaar card identity got implemented. More than 900 million people got it overnight. The election, 900 people voted in 1 month with no disruption. Doesn't happen in other countries. And then the interface payment, the demonetization. So India has proven that when things come together, it can really leapfrog significantly. Okay. So what does it take that India now takes the opportunity to really be the leader on sustainability and affordability, because it comes with these 3 big benefits?
Yeah, I have 4 minutes, and I do want to get into AI, so you will have to keep your answers a bit short, so that I can, give everyone a chance on this. Right now, the AI race seems to be between the US and China. Do you read that correctly, or does India have a place in this race?
India is making very significant progress in all the 5 layers of AI stack. We have already become one of the largest AI-based services provider to the world. Entire IT industry has pivoted from software services to AI-based solutions. The second layer, the model layer, our stack of sovereign models is progressing very well. We must understand today that 95% of the work can be done with a small 50 billion parameter model. You don't require a trillion parameter model to do the things that you need in your day-to-day life and in your enterprises. Our focus on semiconductor industry, the 3rd layer, is very strong. We are investing $70 billion in the 4th layer, the infrastructure layer, and energy, which is the 5th layer. We have opened it up. They opened the entire energy sector, the nuclear energy sector, to private sector, so that we can have a sustainable, clean energy for the AI world.
Geeta, AI is affecting jobs in coding and call centers, which is very big for India. Do you think we can make this pivot like the minister is suggesting?
It will take directed conscious effort to make that switch happen. It's not going to happen very quickly. Indeed, business process outsourcing, for which India was a big beneficiary of, that is going to be impacted by AI. These call centers, as you mentioned, coders and coding in general, are going to be heavily affected. Now, India does have the plus that it does have a good digital infrastructure, which it continues to build on. It has a lot of skilled engineers and an IT sector that supplies the world, so that gives it a good holding. But we're going to have to find ways of coming up with new kinds of jobs. That, again, comes back to the original point about skilling up the workforce, making sure that they are able to benefit from AI. In terms of, if you look at the statistics about how much is India exposed to AI, how much of India's labor force is exposed to AI, it's about 26%. The average for the world is 40%. That's just a reflection of the fact that still a very large number of Indians work in agriculture, right? So that transition has still not happened. Productivity in agriculture has not gone up enough to push people out of agriculture into industry and into services. So that transition is still ongoing. So there is less exposure to AI in that sense for the entire labor market as a whole. But like every country in the world, I think this is going to be an important challenge. India is already capital intensive for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. If we end up with services also becoming capital intensive in India, then there is going to be a problem with enough job creation. And here, labor market flexibility is, again, super important.
So we just have a few seconds, but I want to get into it because you offered Perplexity free to your entire mobile network, right? I want to ask you what your view on AI is, because we are offering pervasive access to our market to foreign AI players. How do you see that?
Yeah, I think India will find this very frugal ways of getting to AI development side. I think we have the minds, we have the brains, and as the minister rightly pointed out, there will be new models which will not require $1 trillion commitment, but maybe tens of billions of dollars. India will do that parallelly. As user of AI, we have now injected in various form factors in our business. Spam is one. Billions of messages, billions of calls from protecting our customers from fraud. Our whole network, from design to management is run on AI now. Agentic AI is pervasive all over. Yes, some call centers are getting affected, and some different jobs will need to be found for those. But as a country, I would say India is well positioned to make good use of AI for its productivity, automation, and improvement in the economy.
I'm sorry, I'm completely out of time. I'm not going to be able to give you the question on AI. I'm going to conclude. I think this has been a very good news session. I think everyone agrees that India is a force for good, and it's written in the stars. And I hope that this Goldilocks fairy tale has a happily ever after. Thank you very much, all of you.
All right, so that was from World Economic Forum, live from World Economic Forum Davos, where India's Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav participated in the session on Can India Become the Third Largest Economy in the World? The session focused on the opportunities, ease of doing business in India, priorities of the government, India as a trusted value chain partner, the AI race, and also the challenges ahead. The minister exuded confidence that India is on its way to becoming the third largest economy. India is a force for good, and it is written in the stars. So that was the gist of the participation of our minister at the forum. That's it as of now. In the bulletins that follow, we will get you other highlights from World Economic Forum as well.